Going on, everybody? Looks like I'm live. Greetings to you and your family, and and everybody that's around your circle. So, listen, I want to talk about intellectual property, or intellectual property business model. Okay, so now intellectual property, basically, from a legal perspective, what it means is you owning your creation, or your work, your art, whether it's digital, whether it's ideas or knowledge or information, you owning that. That's what intellectual property means, right? Now, usually intellectual property, in the legal terms, you have uh, it deals with four components. So you have trademark, you have copyright, you have patent, and then you have trade secret, right? So trademark, copyright, patent, and trade secret. Now, usually it's expensive to try to hire a intellectual property lawyer to try to what do you call it, to file a patent, or if you want to patent your idea. Listen, it's an expensive route, right? So you got to have money in order to do that, right? So usually a lot of people, if you're not in that situation or in that position where you cannot patent your idea, or you cannot put you register your logo or your image as a trademark, right? Then it gets a little bit challenging. So I want to show you a different alternative, right, in terms of how to create digital content or digital assets, how to protect it, and how to monetize it, because that's what intellectual property means, right? So intellectual property, usually you're dealing with some sort of some digital assets, right? So whether it's your artwork, whether it's your book, whether it's an ebook, whether it's a course, whether it's a PDF, that's all intellectual property, right? So that's why I want to simplify it to you, so that way you don't get confused in the lingo, in the linguistic, or in the terminology, right? So when you hear intellectual property, that's what it means. You're talking about your ideas, your knowledge, your selling your experience, selling your knowledge, your processes, selling your online course, or selling or licensing your logo, licensing your artwork, right? So that's what intellectual property is. Now, I think something that everybody should look into, that they should start researching is, start looking at NFT, right? Because there's a lot of buzz around NFT, right? NFT stands for non-fungible tokens, right? Where it's a marketplace where people can sell their digital arts. And when you sell it, or when you upload it and you sell it, you are the original owner of your artwork, right? You are and then you can license it out, you can sell it out. So that's called, it's NFT. So non-fungible token, or short for NFT. So look that up, because there's a lot of buzz around that area, because it deals with intellectual property, it deals with digital assets, and it deals with digital content. Listen, you have to be, you got to be able to know how to create, how to monetize on your digital goods, your digital content, your digital asset, right? You don't have to have an online business, but everybody's got digital assets. Everybody's got digital content. Everybody's got an ebook in them. Everybody's got an online course that they can sell. Everybody's got a PDF document that they can sell. Everybody's got an expert. You're an expert in something, basically. That's what it comes down to, right? What are you an expert in, right? You are good at something that somebody out there in the marketplace or anywhere around the world, they will be willing to pay for your expertise. They will be willing to pay for your for your knowledge, for your experience, for your processes, for your way, your way of doing things, right? You might know a certain way of doing things, right? Listen, you can you can create a digital product around that. You can create a digital content around that. You can create a digital asset around that, and monetize on it, right? So that's what, when we say intellectual property, that's what we're talking about. So don't let the terminology confuse you, right? Don't get lost in the linguistic, right? Intellectual property, basically, that's what it means. It means you being the owner, or you owning the rights to your own creation, to your own ideas, to your own knowledge, to your own your own work, your expertise, whatever it is that you're selling, that you own, that you are selling, or that you came up with, that is original, that is unique to you. That's what intellectual property is. So that's what I want to talk about, how to create it, and how to monetize on it. So how to monetize your digital assets, how to monetize your ideas, your expertise, your knowledge, right? Because listen, whether you like it or not, we are living in an intellectual property economy where everything is intellectual property, right? From the software that you're using, that's intellectual property. YouTube, that's in, the platform that you're watching this from, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. Listen, that's an intellectual property. That's an online platform that you cannot duplicate, come up with your own software and call it Facebook, right? You're gonna get sued. So that's intellectual property. YouTube, you can't come up with your own platform and call it YouTube, right? You're gonna get sued for that. That's intellectual property. You cannot come up with your own movie, right? Streaming service and call it Netflix, right? That's intellectual property. You're gonna get sued for that. So listen, everything around us is intellectual property. The movies that we watch, that's copyright. So intellectual property is all, it's all around us. So everybody's got to understand it, and everybody's got to know that, right? There is something in you that you can, you can turn it into an intellectual property, whether it's an ebook, as I mentioned, right? You can sell your ebook. You can come up with, you can put your experience. You can talk about your experience. You can talk about your knowledge, what you know, and put it in an ebook, right? You can talk about, your, if you've traveled around, right? If you've been to places and you've met people all over the world, listen, you can document that experience, right? You can document your experience and digitize that experience, monetize it and protect it. And that becomes your intellectual property. So that property lives on forever, for as long as, right? For as long as you monetize or you protect it, it will live on, right? It will outlive the original author, or it will outlive you, right? So that's what intellectual property is, right? Usually intellectual property ends up outliving, the person who created it. So listen, you got to understand intellectual property. You got to understand that, right? You can create something, right? Whatever it is that you can think about, and protect it and monetize it, and that becomes your intellectual property. It becomes your intellectual asset. Now, what do I mean? Listen, you can create a dance course. You can create a dance course, and right, whether it's a video, and protect that and monetize that. That's a digital, that's an intellectual property. So there is, everybody has the ability to create an intellectual property, whether it's a ebook, a PDF, a course, right? You see, it's just knowing the formula or the strategy. So that's what I want to, that's the objective of this video. I'm going to try to kind of give you, kind of the basics in terms of how to get started in terms of protecting and creating your digital asset. Because once you have enough digital content out that you've protecting and you monetizing, it becomes your digital asset. So that's your intellectual property, right? So if you come up with a clothing line, right, and the graphic, that's trademark. So that's your intellectual property, right? If you come up with an online way, you do a video course showing people how to how to do their hair, that is your intellectual property. You own that video, you own that, that process, so you can monetize on that process, right? So anything that you do that comes from you, right, that becomes your intellectual property, right? So if it comes from you, if you are the originator, if you doing it, right, if you create that, right? So whether it's, as I mentioned, right, it could be a video, a document, a PDF, but listen, everything around us is intellectual property. Everything around us is intellectual assets, right? So, and everybody has the ability to create intellectual property. Everybody has the ability to create these goods, because it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't really require a lot of money, a lot of capital, a lot of resources, right? You just have to know what it is that you want to create. Is it a blog? Your blog is your intellectual property, because you own that. As long as you write it, it's your intellectual property, right? So you just got to know, what is it that you want to create? Is it a blog? Do you want to get into blogging? Do you want to get into video, creating videos? Do you want to get into creating presentation, right? You got to figure out your niche. You got to figure out your hobby and your passion. What is it that you're good at? So let's talk about creating and monetizing and protecting your digital asset. Listen, the first thing you got to do is, you got to set up your PayPal account. It's free, either a PayPal account or a Stripe account, because that's your online payment processing, right? That's how you get paid, right? So it's through PayPal. So everybody's got to set up you got to have a PayPal account, whether it's personal or it's business, right? That's the first thing you got to do. If you want to get into this intellectual property ecosystem universe where everybody is selling stuff online, then your first, the first thing you got to do is you got to have a payment processing, and you can set it up for free. PayPal or Stripes, right? These are the most common processing that people use, right? And you can actually set up both, right? You can sign up for both a PayPal and a Stripe account. And that's what you need to do. Set up your PayPal and your Stripe account. It is free, right? Now, once you set up your PayPal and your Stripe account, your next, your next goal will be to try to figure out, okay, what kind of content, what kind of digital asset, what kind of intellectual property do I want to create? Do I want to create? No, it's going to be based on your characteristic and your personality, what you're good at, right? Are you more of a writer? So if you're more of a writer, then you might want to be doing blogs, right? Blogs. Now, if you have a Gmail account, Gmail has a free blog site that you can start creating your own blogs, right? So if you go to your Gmail app, listen, there's a blog, Gmail has a blog platform. It's called Bloggers, I believe, right? So if you have a Gmail, then that's where you can start, because once you start creating blogs, right, you can start documenting your experiences, or you can start documenting your knowledge, right? So that becomes your intellectual property, and you can monetize on that by selling subscription now, right? So you can set up a subscription site. Now you can go with Patreon, right? Patreon is very, it's a free, you can set up a free account where you can upload all different types of documents. You can upload PDF, audio, you can upload what else, video, right? So Patreon is free, people, right? So listen, it is, intellectual property is your own work. It's your assets. It's your digital goods. It's your digital, right? It's what you own. You own that, right? As long as you've created it, as long as it comes from you, right? And that's your work, right? Because if anybody steals that, now that here's the thing. That's what I mentioned in the beginning, like intellectual property from a legal perspective, right? If you want to really patent your stuff, then it takes money for you to hire a lawyer. But I'm giving you the creative aspect of it, right? This is what a lot of creators do. This is what a lot of people in the creative economy, they do. They just monetize on their digital assets, their goods, whether it's their course, right? Whether it's their membership site, whether it's their podcast, they monetize on it by setting paywall, right? They don't go the intellectual property route where they hire a lawyer to file a copyright infringement on their work, or to file a trademark, a trademark on their work. No, they just listen. A lot of creators that you see on YouTube, a lot of creators that you follow, right? That's what they do. They monetize on the digital asset by setting up a paywall, right? So let's say if somebody like a podcaster that you follow, you realize if you're following a podcaster, they might have a membership site with Patreon, right? Where you're paying membership every month for you to have access to exclusive content. Now, you can also do the same thing, because they're using a free platform, which is Patreon, right? And then at the same time, to create their podcast, they're also using the free platform, which is Anchor FM. So they're using, right? Everything is free that they're using, but they have a paywall. They're monetizing on it, right? Because once you use, right? Because some of these platforms, it allows you to, what do you call it? You can actually unlist your product, right? Or it's like, for example, YouTube has the option when you create a video, right? You can set it public where everybody can see it, or you can unlist it, right? Whereby only a certain people that will be able to see if you send them that link, or you can make it private whereby only you can see that, right? And then same thing with audio, right? There's some platform that allows you, once you create the platform, once you create the podcast, the audio, you can download it and then re-upload it in a site that allows you to monetize on it, right? So That's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to create and protect your digital asset, your intellectual property. Listen, you don't have to set up an online business. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be a savvy tech person, but you do have to learn how to create and monetize your intellectual property, how to monetize your idea, how to protect your, you know, your lesson. So if you're a consultant, then you have to learn how to protect your courses, right? So as I said, PayPal and Stripes, these are free accounts that you can set up because you can create, that's your payment processor, right? That's how you're going to get paid. And then Patreon, right? Patreon is a subscription service, right? Whereby once you have content, your digital asset, once you've created it, whether it's video, you've created a video on your cell phone on YouTube, or you created a video on your cell phone, you can upload it on Patreon and you can create what's known as a membership site. So let me show you what Patreon looks like, so you can actually go there and and then just set up these accounts for yourself. Because listen, you got to start to understand how to just create your intellectual property, people. It's free, right? So hopefully you can see this. Let me make this big here, right? So this is Patreon, right? Patreon, like as I mentioned, right? Your favorite YouTube creator or your favorite YouTube audio or podcaster, they probably have a Patreon account where, right? Or you might even be a member on their Patreon account, right? So as you can see here, Patreon is for people that do podcaster, if you do podcasting, video creator, musician, visual artists, communities, writers and journalists. Remember, as I said, blogging, right? So if you're a writer, if you're a journalist, you write blogs, and you can upload it on Patreon and put a paywall around it, right? Gaming creator, nonprofit, tutorial education. So people that do the videos, people that are in the educational field, right? You can start monetizing on your lessons, right? And this is a good place to start, right? Because it's free. Patreon is free, and a lot of people are using Patreon to monetize on their intellectual property, on their digital assets, on their digital goods, right? So as you can see here, the pricing is free because you don't pay anything. Well, you pay when you sell your product, or you pay when people, let's say you have subscribers, right? So they take out a percentage from every from every subscriber. So but there's no cost to you. You're not paying anything monthly, right? So if you have 0 subscribers, then you're paying $0, right? If you have, let's say you have 100 subscribers and each subscriber is paying they're paying $5, then depending on which plan that you take, then Patreon is going to take a percentage. They're going to take a transaction, not a percentage, a transactional fee from every subscriber that subscribes to your artwork. But listen, right? This is Patreon. This is a site for you to set up a paywall, for you to monetize, for you to protect, and for you to create your content. So if you're a podcaster, if you're a videographer, if you are a journalist, right? Or if you're just a writer, if you have your own blog post, if you do, if you do educational lessons, right? If you learn out, if you do cooking lessons and you want to record it, archive it, and sell it, then this is a good place to start, right? If you don't need any tech skills, right? You do not need any tech skills to do this. You just got to figure out what is it that you want to do, right? So this is Patreon right here. And as I mentioned, right, this is for, anybody who's a podcaster, right? That's Patreon for you. So let me come back here and, all right, listen, that's intellectual property for you, because we live in an intellectual property economy where everything is intellectual property, right? Google is intellectual property. You can't just set up your own platform and call it Google, right? Nike, no, that's intellectual property. That the logo, right? So, and as I mentioned, intellectual property, like the word says, intellectual, your ideas, your knowledge, right? And property. So meaning that you are the owner of your own idea, right? Your intellect, your intellectual, your ideas. This is what the terminology really comes from. So don't get lost in the in the language. Intellectual property is you creating your what do you call it? Your art, right? Your art could be dancing. Your art could be writing. It could be video. If let's say you're a chef or you like cooking, right? You can start creating your own videos, cooking lessons, and then you can now upload it to Patreon and sell it. So that is your intellectual property. Why? Because the videos that you've created of you cooking, you own that video. You are the owner of that video. That is your intellectual property. Those cooking lessons, those videos are yours. If you write a blog, that blog belongs to you. You are the original, right? You are the original owner, right? That becomes your intellectual property. Now, when you upload it to a site such as, Patreon, it now becomes your intellectual property. Now you've learned how to protect it and you've learned how to monetize it. As I mentioned, listen, everything around us is intellectual property, right? So, right, especially for the youth, man, high school, university, listen, you have to, because a lot of the youth, they are already embedded in technology. They already familiar with how technology works. Now you got to start understanding to start, you got to start creating your digital uh assets, your digital digital your intellectual property, something that you can own. Now, as I mentioned, you don't really need a lot of money to do this, right? You don't need money at all. You can start, because a lot of the platforms where you can create content, where you can create digital goods, where you can create videos, where you can create PDF documents, blog posts, and audio, these are all free content, right? So you got to set up your PayPal for payment processes. That's how you're going to get paid. PayPal or Stripe, these are the most common payment processors that are used online. So PayPal or Stripe, you got to set it up. Either you set up both of them, right? And then once you set it up, listen, Patreon is where you can start now uploading or monetizing your content for free, right? You can monetize your content. And once you start getting some subscribers, right? Now, check this. Once you have your content, or once you have your intellectual property, right? So let's say you love cooking, right? And you want to show people how to cook, how to eat healthy, right? You do videos about cooking, right? That's your intellectual property. You upload it on Patreon. Now you got to start promoting those videos, or promoting your Patreon page, right? So that's where the social media comes in, on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your YouTube. So you can start getting some traffic. You can start getting some audience. You can getting some followers. Once you start getting audience, then you redirect them to Patreon, where they can become subscribers, or they can become members and start consuming exclusive content, right? Because listen, that's the way, that is the way that the economy is going towards. It's going towards an intellectual property economy, where people are creating goods and services online. They are, they're either licensing it, they're leasing it, they're renting their knowledge, right? They're renting their experience, they're renting their software, they're renting their website, they're renting their, right? That's all intellectual property, people, right? So you got to get into the game too, because that's the economy. Intellectual property is it's $1 trillion economy, right? Selling goods online, selling ideas, selling lifestyle, selling knowledge, selling renting your documents, archiving your products and services, right? So you got to figure out now, as I mentioned, there is a niche for everything, right? So everything, because there's so many people in the world, people have different needs, different interests, different hobbies, right? As long as you can find a niche and find what is it that you're passionate about, listen, you can start creating your digital asset, your intellectual properties, and you can start monetizing it, right? So if you're good with audio, right? Let's say you want to start your own audio, or you want to start your own podcasting, then you can go with Anchor FM, right? Anchor FM is also a free, it's a free podcasting platform that you can start using, right? So let me see if I can pull up Anchor FM for you here, right? And that's free for podcasters. So you can host your, right? And there's a tool, and it gives you the, what do you call it? It gives you the tool, so you can actually, listen, all you need is a phone for this stuff, right? You can create videos from your phone and then upload it to Patreon, set up a membership, set up your YouTube, Facebook, and start creating content, start promoting your content. Now, it takes time and it takes work, right? But you're creating your digital asset, your digital product that sometime, that one day could, it could it can generate some revenues for you, right? Because once you start creating content on all these different social medias, and you start getting traffic, you start getting people to that like your content, then that's where you can start redirecting them now to your to your Patreon account, right? So we, even with Anchor FM, right? Anchor FM, as I mentioned, is a podcasting platform. So if you like audio, if you like, if you like to talk, right? If you want to start your own podcasting, then you can do Anchor FM, right? Let me see if and it's free. And they have an app, right? So the app, you can download the app on your phone, and you can start creating your podcast straight from your phone. So this is Anchor FM right here, right? So let's see some of the features. So you see, they have an app, so you can record your podcasting from your phone and upload it right on Spotify, because Spotify owns Anchor FM, right? And right, I think they also, you can monetize on your podcast, but I think this feature is only available in the US. I don't think it's available if you're in Canada. But if you're watching this and you're from the US, then right, you can monetize your podcast with Anchor FM, right? And as I mentioned, they have an app. So right, so that's digital asset. Your audio is your digital asset. Your conversations that you're having with people, let's say you're interviewing people about different subject matters, right? That is your intellectual property, because you own, you own that audio. That is your intellectual property. That is your digital asset now, that you can, that you own. That nobody can take that. Well, they can take it, but they can take it. However, you just have to figure out a way to monetize on it, because as I mentioned in the beginning, intellectual property, if you go the legal way, whereby you want to, really, set, do it the legal, the legal way, where you want to, do copyright infringement, where you're suing people and all that stuff, setting up a patent. It's costly, because it takes money, right? You got to hire lawyers and all that. But the creative way is you create your content and you set up a paywall to monetize on it, right? So, right, Anchor FM, listen, right, it's free, people, right? It's on your phone. If you have a phone, then right, you can start creating podcasting right from your phone with Anchor FM. So right, listen, these are some free platform, right? So you can't really say that the opportunity is not there. The opportunity is there. It's just a question of you willing to put in that work, right? Are you willing to start now creating these digital assets, these intellectual properties that can, that can one day start generating some revenues for you, right? And as I said earlier, look into NFT, right? Non-fungible tokens, right? Because that's also hot right now, because it's a lot of people are talking about NFT. So that may be something that you want to look into. So listen, as I mentioned, man, we live in an intellectual property economy. Everything has to do with people selling their knowledge, selling their information. We live in an information era, right? So you got to learn how to create your own intellectual property, your own digital content, your own digital assets, and sell it. And as I said, the cost, the cost to entry is zero, right? There is no barrier in terms of entering into start. There's no barrier in terms of starting to create intellectual property. Why? Because a lot of the platform for you to start creating your own intellectual property, your own digital content, your own digital asset, it's all free. So the entry, the barrier, the entry into this ecosystem, it's zero, right? It's because you can start with your phone, right? You can start creating podcasting from your phone. You can start creating artwork, right? You can start creating digital artwork, logos, graphics, you name it, that you can sell, you can license it to people, right? Because listen, there's many platforms that you can set up as a paywall, right? Because from a legal perspective, right, if you want to trademark your work, then you have to go through, you got to get a lawyer, and they got to file, they got to file all different types of documents for your work to be considered as a trademark. But listen, if you don't have the money to do that, which, a lot of people are not in that position to trademark their stuff, copyright their stuff, to set up patent and all that stuff, right? Or a trade secret. So the creative economy is, hey, listen, this is my artwork. I'm going to monetize on it. I'm going to set up my PayPal. I'm going to set up my Patreon account. I'm going to set up my my course platforms where I can upload my courses, and I'm going to monetize. I'm going to work. And all you need is your phone and a laptop to do this, right? And you can start creating digital assets. You can start creating intellectual properties that you can own. You can create a bunch of intellectual properties and then just put them on a hard drive. And then once you start promoting yourself, start putting yourself out there, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, right? You start getting a little bit of buzz. Now you can go back to your hard drive and be like, hey, I did a podcasting back in 2019 and this thing is exclusive, right? And this podcast, I interviewed this person before they blew up. Listen, if you want to hear this podcast or if you want to hear this audio, right, you can go to this, my membership site and become a member, or just, you can buy it. But that's how this thing starts, right? So I showed you Anchor FM, which is free, where you can start doing your podcasting, right? If you're a graphic designer, if you're into graphic, if you like doing, right, there is Canva, which is also free. They have a free plan, right? That you can you can set up, right? So with Canva, you can design all stuff. You can design all different types of stuff, logos. You can design business card. You can design flyers. So listen, you can also do that, right? Because there's these platforms where like Fiverr, Fever, something like that, right? Where you can upload your work and sell it, or where you can, you can sell your service, right? You can sell yourself. You sell yourself in terms of your knowledge and your expertise, right? So you're selling your skills, you're selling yourself, you're selling your talents, you're selling what you can do, right? So if you are a graphic designer, if you are, if you know how to design logos and flyers and stuff like that, there's a marketplace for that, right? So as I mentioned with Canva, right? Canva is a free online software where you can create all different types of graphic, right? You can create um, logos, flyers, t-shirt mock-ups and all that stuff, right? And as I mentioned, this is also free as well, right? So, right, let me enlarge that. So this is Canva right there, people, right? Canva is free, right? So you can pretty much design anything, right? Presentation, you can do presentations, logo, book cover, right? Instagram post, resumes, letterheads. What else can you do on Canva? Poster, ad document. You can do videos. You can do infographic. Right now, a lot of your YouTube creators, a lot of your YouTube influencers, they're all using Canva, right? The thumbnails that you see, they're all using Canva to do this, right? All right. You can do YouTube thumbnails. You can do, listen, you can pretty much do anything here, right? You can do, all right. And a lot of the documents or a lot of the templates that you see, worksheets, reports, graph, invoice, right? So a lot of your YouTube influencers, I mean, your Instagram influencers and all that stuff, magazine cover, that's what they're using. They're using Canva to create their digital asset. Because remember, everything that you do, because here, right, you see they have templates that you can use for Instagram posts, Facebook posts, right? Post for marketing, for education, right? And right. So once you do, because there's some templates that they allow you to use for free, and once you use that, then you own that. It becomes your intellectual property as well. So now you become the owner of that intellectual property, people, and that's a free service. It's a free platform. So that's intellectual property. It's a platform known as, right, that's what you call software as a service. So they're selling their software as a service. So that's intellectual property right there. So listen, the market, um the the stage is set, people, right? The stage is set, right? If you like, if you are ambitious, if you like, if you like, I don't know, man. Like, but the stage is set, people. You got your phone, you got your computer, you got your laptop. You don't need funding for this. You don't need money. You don't need resources. All you need is your phone, and you need your laptop, and you need to know what kind of intellectual property that you want to start producing. Because remember, your intellectual property, it will outlive you. So this thing, it could be transferred to your children, to your, because you own that. That's your work. Your intellectual property is yours. You own that, right? You can transfer it. you can lease it, you rent it, you can, that is yours, people. That's what intellectual property is, right? Now, the business model, as I mentioned, you can do subscription services, you can do asset sales where you're selling your intellectual property as an, right, as an asset. So it's like, hey, I'm selling it to you, right? So now you're giving the rights to the buyer, right? Or you can do it as a licensing, where you're licensing your work, right? Or you're renting out your work, right? There's a platform called Vimeo, right? Vimeo is a video is a video hosting company, right? Where you can actually do your own videos and sell it. Right now, Vimeo is it's video hosting that has a paywall, so you can upload your videos on Vimeo. You can either set it up as a subscription, or you can do it as a as a rent. So let me show you what Vimeo looks like. So if you are in video, right? So if you like, right, if you like creating videos, I mentioned that the analogy I gave earlier, if you are, let's say if you're a fitness trainer, right? So if you're a fitness trainer, right, and you want to show people how to get in shape, then you can start creating your own fitness video. That becomes your intellectual property. That means you own that. That means, listen, once you build a following, once you build traffic, you can start selling your intellectual property, which is your video, your training, your fitness training lessons that you did, right? You can, that's what intellectual property is. Now you can monetize on that. Once you get traffic, once you get people, once you get followers, once you get, an audience that, that likes that type of content that you're putting out, people. That's how intellectual property works. We live in an intellectual property economy whereby, listen, if you're not creating anything, then you'll be, you are going to be left behind in this intellectually driven economy, right? It's a knowledge economy, right? So I was talking about Vimeo. So let me show you what Vimeo looks like, right? So Vimeo is an online video platform where you can sell videos. Now, Vimeo is specifically just for videos, right? Where you can basically, right? Yeah, you can sell your videos, right? You can rent it out. You can, and it's hosting too, right? So they do the hosting for you, right? And see, let me show you. See the monetization, right? Right. So there's different ways you can monetize on your videos. You can rent it out. You can sell it outright, or you can lease it, right? So let me see if I can. And Vimeo is there's the free, right? No, that's not it. There's a free version of it, and then the free version doesn't allow you to monetize or to set up a paywall, but the other plans it does, right? So feature, right? Video grow. Let's see here. Create from templates. Manage ad free. Yeah. So listen. Yeah. Let me see. Monetize your videos, right? So you can monetize your video because your video is your intellectual property. Like, as you can see here, these are people that are creating their intellectual property, right? That's their work. So that's Vimeo. All right. So let me stop that. All right. So that's Vimeo, people. Listen, I gave you a lot of resources that, right, that you need to start looking into. That's what intellectual property is. Everything is intellectual property. Netflix, Marvels, these are all intellectual properties. Whatever content that you create now, it becomes an intellectual property. It becomes a digital asset. It becomes a digital product. It becomes a digital content. So you got to start getting into creating intellectual properties for yourself, right? You got to sit down and ask yourself, okay, what do I know that somebody out there is willing to pay for it? What can I do that I can teach others? What could what am I good at that somebody else, listen, if you know how to play piano, you can do piano lessons. You can do a video, you can do instructional, put it into a document. You can put it into an ebook, a PDF. That is intellectual property. Now you own that intellectual property, right? And you can monetize it on it, as I said. So listen, all you need is really a laptop and your phone to start creating, right? Start creating and start protecting, and you start monetizing it. Once you find a platform to monetize on it, now you start doing the promotion, the marketing to get people excited, to get people interested in your product, in your intellectual in your intellectual property. People, listen, that's the game, right? That's the long-term game, is to create intellectual property, build your audience on different social media, Facebook, Instagram, and start selling your product, your intellectual property, right? There's something in you, or there's something that you know that other people don't know, that they want to learn, right? So create a course, create a PDF, create a podcast, and start, and turn that into and that becomes your intellectual property. All right. So listen, I think I'm almost done. So um, now listen, you can go to the Funding Academy. All right, because Funding Academy, the website is below there, www.fundingacademy.live. As I said, right, there's a lot of resources that I have there for free. So if you go to the Funding Academy website, right, there is a lot of resources there for free. There's some free courses, there's some free ebooks, some free reports. If you want to learn how to start your own business, if you want to learn how to get, like, okay, let me show you, right, what I'm talking about, because everything is intellectual property, everything is digital good, everything is right, everything is online knowledge, right? So you might as well learn how to create knowledge, create products online, and monetize on products. So the Funding Academy, people, right? Listen, you want to be on, go to the Funding Academy, because there's so much there. There's so much free information that's there that you're not going to find it anywhere, right? There's courses, right? How to get started in the credit game, the basics. So if you want to learn about credit, there's a free course that you can take. If you want to learn about how to start a business, how to start an online business with no money, there's a free course that you can take, right? Internet Business Startup Kit. So this is a PDF, right? So there is, let me see if it's going to show me. Right. So look at this. There's over 9 different files. Internet. These are all PDF documents, ebooks, special reports, checklists, and this is all free. Workbooks, you name it. Right. Look how many files is in there. This is all free resources, information that you can start using. Right. Internet Business Startup Kit. So if you want to learn how to start creating online businesses, or how to create your hobby and turn it into an online business, go download, this free kit right there, right? 100 business ideas that you can start, right? So this is another, special report it's for free if you go to the Funding Academy website, right? And right, you get the ebook, right? And the ebook has over 100 business ideas that you can start testing out, right? Make money from your hobby and turn it into an online business, right? So you can download that too. Like once you've signed up, then you have access to all these free documents, right? So all you have to do is just, log in once, and you have access to all these free documents, right? So this is, make money from your hobby and turn it into an online business. So this is some documents that you can download, right? There's an ebook, there's a workbook, right? 12 ways to make money online, summary, right? Kickstart your internet business special report, right? Social media guide, the template. So listen, this is all free resources that I'm providing to you at the Funding Academy live that you can start using, and this is yours, right? You can keep them, you can play around with it. A 12-point checklist workbook, that's all yours for you to to brainstorm, right? And there's more free resources that you can start using, and that's what Funding Academy really is, right? Funding Academy is to give you the information that you need to be successful in creating your intellectual property, creating your digital good, selling your digital goods, selling your digital asset, protecting it and monetizing it. So all these free courses and documentation that's in here, once you read them all, then listen, you should have an understanding, an idea on how to start this process of creating intellectual property and turning it into an online business, right? So and there's the business model canvas. So this is all on the Funding Academy website. Listen, I'm giving you free resources, free listen, free resources that you can use to start building your business, right? So that's pretty much it. If you want to reach out to me directly, right, to do a consultation with me, then you can always send me an email, right? And because there's a lot of content that I put on YouTube, right? If you really want to learn about business credit, the content is there, right? But if you want to bypass all that and you just want to, you want to get straight to the point, then you can reach out to me and, we can schedule a one-on-one consultation, right? And, or if you want to learn how to set up these, how to create and monetize on your digital content, then listen, you can reach out to me and we'll have a one-on-one. I'll give you the blueprint, the step-by-step guide on what you need to do. All right. So as I mentioned, you can also get some more content on the fundingacademy.live website, and consume the content, get the free books, the free courses that's there, so you can start your your journey on creating intellectual properties and protecting it and monetizing it. All right. So listen, I'm out for now. All right. I'm going to see you all in the next video. All right. May you continue to thrive and may you continue to be blessed, and peace. I am out.